I've uncovered a lot of conversations on TikTok, particularly about spiritual TikTok, really criticizing, I don't think spiritual TikTok as a whole, but primarily like a few different content creators. I have no idea who they are, honestly. I'm just getting like echoes of these conversations. But there is a really big concern because there's a reality that people are being driven into a psychosis through spirituality, through spiritual TikTok. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but I think it's also the recommendations of practices that these content creators, these gurus, these health and wellness advisors, I have no idea who or what they are recommending to people. And I don't really know if it's like the practices themselves, they would, I have to assume it would be, or if there's just not enough like context and information or disclaimers on these types of things. It's really hard to imagine a spiritual practice like in itself, which is like so incredibly harmful, unless it's like, a drug or something like that. I don't even know. I really haven't thought about all of the nuances to that, but yeah, it's hard to imagine like something like so specific that it would be a problem for people. I think it's more about what you're going through. If you are struggling with a mental illness, if you are just kind of like struggling at a point in place in time, you don't necessarily have a mental illness. Or it's just your relationship with yourself and your intuition and spirituality as a whole. I think there could be a number of factors which would, prime you to have very negative effects from any types of spiritual practices, even like thought patterns and beliefs. If like, it's like in more of a, thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and even like a brainwashing territory, it might not even be like something physical. I've definitely been to the point of psychosis in my spiritual journey. I don't ever really talk about it because I honestly feel like it was only one or two instances, and I was able to kind of get myself out of it because I just had so much experience with it that it was just like driving me to a point where I kind of knew how to get myself back. But that was really just something which was like self-inflicted, self-induced, but like not even intentional. It just kind of happened. I guess my higher self just felt like it needed to happen. But I do feel like part of those specific instances was driven by the fact that I was just not really taking great care of myself. And I don't feel like I was being open-minded in a way where I was like, I'll let anything happen. Like, I think it was kind of me being just very, because like I think that's a good thing, right? I think it's like a good thing to be open-minded, to allow the universe to intervene and to be helped and even like saved, I don't know, by your spirit guides and your ancestors and ascended masters. But it just, I think there was like a level of just me not caring about myself and not respecting myself in the situation, and I feel like that ultimately was my detriment. But it was just so much inundation. I feel like I was very separated from reality and like real life, and I think that also was part of it. And honestly, looking back on it, I like understand where I made those mistakes, and I do also feel like there was like a learning lesson involved in it. Like, I don't regret that it happened, but for the most part, I am happy to say that like those experiences have never been duplicated, and I've been in a lot of scary situations which have pushed me mentally, emotionally, and physically, actually, and it's been fine. It was really just like, again, those like one or two experiences where I just really let myself go in like a bad way. It's really hard to explain kind of like what I mean, because like surrendering and letting your ego go, I guess you could say, is really helpful. But I don't know. I think it was just a combination of different factors, and I was not really in control of my own life. So anyway, this isn't really supposed to be about my story, because this just isn't. But I am channeling. I'm seeing what's going on, and this video isn't even supposed to be about like the most extreme levels of like you're going to be in psychosis from spiritual TikTok and spirituality. It's really like there are so many potentially just like damaging negative things which can happen, which you can 100% avoid, in my opinion. I mean, like, obviously accidents, mistakes are going to happen, but yeah, and to be like a little bit more clear about what I mean, spirituality and spiritual information and messages are really specifically only intended to help. And like, there is a disclaimer on this, like, information can at times be disturbing and uncomfortable, but in like a good way. You know what I mean? Like, it's like we're stuck in a loop, we're stuck in negativity, and these are agents of change. And I think that like you can pretty quickly know and understand like what that is, because there are certain things that just feel right to you, and there are certain things which feel detrimental to you. And maybe if you're in such, you know, a low place or such a disconnected place, it may not be so obvious, but I think if you continue to push yourself in this space, you definitely have to be aware of that and just be really cognizant as you do push yourself and you do level up, because yeah, you're going to be in some scary situations, and so you want to prevent or avoid anything bad happening. And it's hard because like a lot of this sounds somewhat ambiguous, because there's just so many different things that you could be doing. It could be meditation, it could be past life regressions, it could be yoga, it could be medicine work. Like, it kind of spans anything and everything. So I think that what kind of sets the scene in these situations is not feeling like you're in control of your own life, right? Because if we're talking about our maximum capacity, our evolution as a species, what sets us apart, you know, from being unevolved, being evolved people, is really the ability to transmute negative energy. Essentially, it's the ability to exist and know and understand when you're receiving this negative energy, when you're sorting through this trauma, whether it's something that has been projected onto you, it could be from this lifetime, it could be from like another lifetime. How good, basically, are you at transmuting this energy? And if you're just like a powerhouse of like consistently, constantly transmuting it, it's likely that you feel pretty good. It's likely that you feel happy, you feel in control of your life. You're just able to basically, like, anything can run off your back, pretty much, right? Like, that's evolution to me. Evolution to me is not the highest level of intelligence, because intelligence changes so quickly and so rapidly. Evolution to me is the ability to adapt and change incredibly efficiently and quickly. That is really the only way we are going to survive as a species. It's not memorizing a textbook, because that textbook is going to change in probably like a month, honestly. So that's my opinion. So people who are, you know, newer in this process of transmuting energy will likely be very potentially affected by spiritual information and messages, because there's already a lot of energetic rumination. And when you are already ruminating on a lot of thoughts, feelings, and emotions, more information is really going to crowd this space. It's going to make you like very confused. And yeah, I just think that like if you're in a place where you're not feeling in control of your life and you're looking to receive that from something or someone else, you're going to be very impressionable. You're going to potentially even give up more of your control, which is not good. And I think you're just going to be easily potentially manipulated. And yeah, obviously, like, in terms of just being over inundated by this information and energy, it could just cause you to really lose your mind, honestly, like lose it. And I don't mean this in like a derogatory sense, but like you don't have sight of it. Like you just feel like you're something or someone else, or that you just like don't even exist, you know? It's a humongous struggle, because the people who are most susceptible to this type of you know, kind of like conditioning or brainwashing, or just kind of like feeling like other people have the answers and they don't, are the people that need the most help. And it makes sense. Like, if you have tried anything and everything and you genuinely feel like spirituality is your answer, I mean, it probably is, but I think what people don't totally understand is that like it's about your intuitive journey with your own spirituality. It's not about seeking it out from like a psychic, a medium, or a channeler. And although obviously I do this work and I very much encourage it, it really should be more for validation and resonation. Like, there should be some insightful moments, but under no circumstances can, one, psychics predict the outcome of your life 100%, because you're the manifestor of your own destiny, and also they can't tell you how to live your life. They can't say that this is the best option and opportunity for you, because that has to come on an individual and on a resonation level. But I mean, I get it. If you're desperate for answers, you're going to be desperate for answers. So it's a good segue into this list of things that I recommend to not be negatively influenced by spiritual information, messages, practices coming externally, right? So here we go. Let's get into it. Like I said, that was a good segue. The first thing is to have a sense of peace and grace of answers that you're not supposed to know. Even as someone like myself who's intuitive, there are just certain answers I can't get, and there's a lot of reasons for this. One, we choose our destiny, so it's kind of like you can guess, but like you're never going to know 100%. So that's one thing. Finite information about the future, it doesn't really exist. The other thing is that some things are supposed to be surprise and delight moments, and you're here to be surprised and to learn to evolve and grow. And if you have all of the answers to everything right away, that is going to be nullified. There's going to be like no point and no reason. So things just kind of like tend to evolve over time, and there's just a greater and higher purpose and reasoning for things rather than just what you perceive right now in your own ego. And I think that the universe and guides are pretty good at limiting that information, that exposure. I mean, like, forcing to get an answer usually doesn't work. If it does, it's usually wrong. So, I think that level setting that expectation, like right away, is going to be helpful, because if you're looking for information that you're not supposed to know and that doesn't exist, you're likely going to become more and more desperate to get it, and that is just going to kind of like snowball into a bad situation. So, all right, next is to practice holistic healing. Yay, what everybody says. This isn't really a surprise. Having your vibration high, obviously, it's not always practical. This is like kind of the worst advice. Like, if you're desperate because you're not in control of your life and you need spiritual information, just not be desperate and just be better. I get it. But let's say that spirituality, integration, and that aligning to your own intuition is just like really, really, really difficult for you. Perhaps there are other things in your life, thoughts, feelings, emotions, your physical life, right? Maybe if you don't have the more ambiguous stuff down, at least there's something physical that you can be doing to help raise your vibration, because the key here is holistic healing. Everything is connected. So if you can, just like raise up other parts of your life, I call it the buoy effect. By proxy, you're going to raise others. And I really just don't recommend like super fixating on problems, because that is typically a detriment to you, because you're not really dealing with the root cause of the problem. You're just kind of dealing with the symptoms. So definitely try your best to just be your best self. And like, it could also help to redirect that energy of really needing and wanting answers on a spiritual level. Okay, this might sound obvious, but what is up next is working on your sense of control. Building confidence, not easy. I would say almost 100% of the time, if not 100% of the time, it is dealing with these situations directly and dealing with your fears directly. And it may seem like, you're climbing a mountain if you're dealing with issues of confidence, but the best way to start is really to start small. And more specifically, one of the things that comes through the most for people is accomplishing and finishing small projects. And there's a sense of completion, satisfaction, and just like confidence that you get of achieving something on your own that really, really helps build your confidence. So even if it's literally just like washing the dishes or cleaning your home, taking out the trash, like if there is something you can do that you've been avoiding that like is somewhat simple, really focus on that, because that is going to build up over time and going to be really helpful. And like the small physical tasks, I think, are like a very easy thing to do, right? Because confidence is so ambiguous sometimes, like how to improve confidence. Like it's like no one really knows, and I think it's really relative. So confidence is achieving and having success in small ways, and there's definitely lots of ways that you can do that. And when you raise your confidence, you're more likely to receive and want answers from yourself, and you won't necessarily be seeking them out as much, so that will be helpful. It also helps with discernment, right? If you have confidence, you're able to make better, decisive, and more efficient decisions. So that will help you avoid playing into the wrong information or seeing it from the wrong sources, I guess. Okay, this is kind of a big one, and it's to avoid shortcuts when oh my god, when it comes to your evolution, right? There's so much self-help out there, and love that, but it's also a very like saturated, over inundating, kind of like patronizing space, if I'm gonna be totally honest with you. Like it's not great. What I think is happening is that, especially on social media, we're kind of just seeing people in their like most beautiful form, right? Not even just like with filters, but they're successful, they look great, they feel great, and like there's such a larger dissonance with people who aren't feeling great and, you know, maybe don't have as much confidence, and we're receiving this energy that's just like complete overwhelm, right? Like we can't, like, how are we ever going to be like that? And it's not always in comparison. Like, it's not like, well, that person is like that, so I have to be like that. It's inspirational, and you likely do want to be like that if that's what you're attracted to. But I think that overwhelm makes us really susceptible to wanting to receive shortcuts, right? Like, it's like, become a psychic medium overnight, become enlightened overnight. Like, just do these 3 steps and you'll be perfect, you'll be amazing. And it's like, please do not fall into that trap that, this type of enlightenment is going to happen overnight. Like, I think doing your best to avoid that overwhelm and have acceptance, and that's really pretty much the opposite of it. Having acceptance of your current state is going to allow you to be less overwhelmed, but also be realistic with the process and not fall victim to any like false promises. I think that will help kind of like taper and manage expectations well. Okay, this one, avoid energetic resonance if it's too big of a jump. Okay, so a very specific example of this is you are new on your spiritual journey and you have decided you are going to do something completely wild, which is like really out of the realm of your comfort level. If you're someone who's like having trouble meditating, it is likely not a good idea to go into like a full regression or like just something which is like I think we can all generally imagine like different steps, right? Like more easily accessible things are things that you can kind of like walk into a place and do like off the street. They're just like super easy entry points, and they don't take a lot of work and a lot of effort. And then there are other things which are a lot of work, a lot of effort, and sometimes they require steps to get to them in the meantime. And if you're someone who is already in a kind of shaky mental state, do not go full throttle into these things. Like, because when I say energetic resonance, I mean this. There are things which are very similar to your perception value right now if you are not a very intuitive and spiritual person. They're very digestible, right? Yoga is digestible. And then there are things which are pushing you potentially to your breaking point, and you just don't want to casually jump into that, right? Like, it can be really satisfying to be like, well, the people who do this receive answers right away. And it's like, the people who do this that receive answers right away is because they have been building up to this for like a very long time. And I'm not saying this is something that needs to like happen over years, but I'm just saying that like, if it's, and this is kind of like piggybacking off of like, if it's too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. Like, if it seems like it's going to provide you an answer in like 5 seconds, because maybe other people have had it, or, there's just like multiple examples of it. You're not always that person. And I feel like this is kind of coming off very like critical and being like, it's not going to happen. Like, it's just like, yes, like miracles and things happen, but like, if you're just not energetically prepped for it and it's like way too big of a jump, it can be overwhelming. It could be damaging. It could just really rip you out of your own perception value. And that's really not a good thing. There are a lot of things which I recommend doing, which are like loop breakers, which like are shifting and warping your perception value, but those are like self-induced and they're kind of like slow over time, and you can like re-resonate with yourself. You have discernment. You can like let things go and bring things in, and it's on a very manageable timeline. And there's other things where your reality is going to be stripped and ripped away from you, and the comeback from that is going to be not pleasant. So don't recommend. Be very aware of what you're getting into. Do your research. Check in with yourself to see if it's right. This isn't to say that you shouldn't be brave and take risks. It's more about being smart and tuning into yourself. This is kind of just like a obvious one. Don't do things without checking in with yourself first, right? Like, even if it's something which like has been in your mind or that you're getting like signs about, there's always a specific time and place for things. And like, it might be like 90% perfect, but it's not 100% perfect. Even if like you have a journey that you're doing one day and like you wake up and like it's something that's beyond fear, it's like your body is like, this is just like not the right thing to do, pay attention to it. And even if you feel like that's like a failure, the more that you have these failures or the more that you have these like intuition tests, the more that you learn from it. So even if it feels like it should have happened, but you know, you got like weird, confusing messages about it, it's all a learning lesson, and you become so much better with, adjusting to what is fear-oriented, discomfort-oriented versus what is do not do it, message or sign. So it's all part of the process. Don't feel like guilty or like you failed or did something wrong, because that's definitely not the case. Last one, which is a hard one to digest because I'm someone who's also always looking for answers. I mean, it just is what it is. It's my line of work, right? So answers always come from within. Literally. When channelers read energy, they're reading universal energy, which you have access to. They're reading your energy. Obviously, you have access to that. So answers exist and they're real and you can access them. It's just that a lot of the times we are really afraid and we block ourselves with fear. And that's why generally, these types of channeling sessions are just like resonation and validation. It's because you deep down, you subconsciously know, and it's just our job to help and explain it to you. So, okay, I feel like I need to like wrap this up right now. So I'm getting like anxious for some reason, but these are all of my different tips. And, if you've had negative experiences from spiritual readings, spiritual information, messages, spiritual TikTok, I'm very sorry. Like it's an educational space that like not everyone is putting disclaimers onto. And like, I'm sure I can even be better about that. It is a space which is naturally of interest to people who are going through a hard time. But again, like, some people really, really benefit from it. Other people's don't. And it just depends on the situation. So you want to be very aware, you want to be very safe. And I think that a lot of it is client responsibility for doing that research. But as a practitioner, it's also very important to like set expectations and, have the client understand risk factors and value and just kind of like outweigh them. But even if it's not such an extreme situation where you are literally like it feels like a life or death situation, it can just be an addiction, right? Maybe you're just kind of like addicted to spiritual information because you feel out of control in your life. Maybe you just receive a spiritual message and it kind of like puts a damper on your day, right? Like maybe like you got someone saying that you're not going to find your husband for the next year and you're just like really disappointed about that. It's just important to not put so much weight on spiritual information that it disrupts or is a detriment to you. And even if it is negative, hopefully there's a way that you can reframe it into something which is more productive. Maybe it's even like inspiring that you can you got a message that you didn't want to hear and now you're going to change your life because of it. So there's also kind of like alternate things that happen from spiritual messages. And I feel like I've given a few of those in my lifetime where like, maybe it wasn't like 100% true, but like spirit guides really need me to deliver it because hearing that information is going to be really important for the client one way or another. So I think the base level, like I said, is a sense of confidence and control. I know it's like, it feels like it's impossible to do that, and spirituality is a great way to solve that problem, but just be very wary of things which are not intuitive to you, not in alignment with you, are too good to be true, and just make you feel not uncomfortable in a means of change, but uncomfortable in a, this is yucky, this is spooky in a bad way, I'm not into it. Because there's always a safe space in spirituality, always. And it's not so black and white. It's typically in alignment with a client or not. So keep searching for that. Just be safe and be careful. And go through your journey with as much peace and grace and patience as you can. All right, bye y'all.